Don't put it in front of my yard.
We'll
Because I guarantee
try to
you
avoid that.
those people who go out of control when they hit the bump are going to hit me.
Mayor, may I say something? We were part of the board. I was actually president of the Homeowners Association at the time that went in. That was about 12 years ago. When you look at the difference in Saddle Ridge at that time, and I'm going to guess there was maybe 100 homes and the upper level was just being developed. Now there's 250 homes, a whole different traffic pattern, a whole different volume of cars coming up and down that particular hill. The town actually at that time, as we were discussing the process, and this is again a small new neighborhood in Farragut, the town was actually encouraging us to sort of be a new neighborhood and putting in calming devices, and nobody wanted that. However, we had enough traction in the neighborhood that people were willing to accept stop signs. In a way, it was, mediating a number of factions in one neighborhood. I sit, as does one of my neighbors, literally right at the stop sign at the bottom of that hill. I know Sugarwood. I don't think many neighborhoods in Farragut have a vertical hill like what we have. There was a young man, and he must have been about 10 or 11 years old at the time, that was hit by a speeding car. The kid's not the same. The parents moved. We knew them. They were a neighbor. They were 4 houses from me. It was a pretty tough thing for the neighborhood to try to accept a child being hit because of speeding in the neighborhood. The same thing exists. We see it time and time again. You can tell me it's 33.5. You can tell me it's 36. I don't know what it is. But I think at some point in time what the neighborhood really would ask is somehow to have the ability as a neighborhood to have some decision-making process in how that's going to work. You all will have to decide, and we respect the decision you'd make. But I've seen it for 16 years sitting in that neighborhood at the bottom of the hill, walking my dogs, actually fearing people accosting me in my driveway because I yelled at them as they blew through the stop sign. And I'm not talking, Mayor, gentlemen, lady, just slowly creeping through. I'm talking about completely blowing off a stop sign at 35 miles an hour. It's pretty scary. We respect whatever decision you make. I do.
Again, one last statement, if I could. We would hate to have to explain to a parent that a kid was seriously injured or even killed because we missed the statistical threshold by 1.5 miles per hour. And you see what happened to these mailboxes. And like I said, the next time it may not be a mailbox. It may be a child. So please do whatever you can. Discuss it among yourselves. Put it to a vote, whatever. All we're asking is that we allowed to put it to a vote within our own subdivision about whether or not the homeowners would be in favor of the traffic calming devices or not. Thank you very much.
The other factor that we do have to take into consideration is that every road in Farragut is a Farragut road. We have the liability. And if somebody comes along and hits a bump and does a whole bunch of damage and we authorize the bump, then who has the liability?
Could I respond to that?
Yeah.
Just take a minute. I know it's getting late and you guys have a lot to do. I was concerned about it at first because of the potential damage it could do to vehicles. And what I was told is that not all traffic calming devices are alike. There's a whole variety of different shapes and sizes. And I think at some point our President John Radu discussed that perhaps with Darrell. I wasn't privy to those discussions, but there are traffic calming devices that are that are designed not to do the kind of damage that you're talking about to vehicles. I mean, the technology apparently has improved. So the objective is to not necessarily abruptly cause some kind of an impact to the vehicle that could damage it, but as a reminder to the driver that they need to slow down. And I presume that works because they are being installed in subdivisions. We do know that, where this is a problem. And the other thing is, I don't think the gentleman that asked about the cost, we're not talking about installing a lot of calming devices. It's only on the steep hills where you're approaching a stop sign. So I think it's only a few, maybe 3 or 4 calming devices. So we're not talking about a huge investment, but it's really to protect children. So in terms of bang for your buck,
All right. You either go to the podium or you keep to yourself. Go ahead.
My name is Carrie Archer. I live at 400 Saddle Ridge Drive. I'm 3 houses up from the stop sign at Trayburn and Saddle Ridge on the left-hand side as you're going up the hill. I have 3 small children, ages 7, 5, and 2.5. And I'm just going to give you 3 examples of times when my family's lives, the members of my family, their lives have been endangered because of people running the stop sign, people going up the hill too fast, and people coming down the hill too fast. The first incident happened when I was pregnant with my youngest child. I was about 7 months pregnant, and a gentleman in, I believe it was a Honda Accord, ran the stop sign at Trayburn. It was the middle of an afternoon. I was outside playing with my 2 little boys. They were in my front yard and in the driveway, and I saw the man blow the stop sign 3 houses down from me, and I ran out in the middle of the road because he sped up that hill going about 50 miles an hour, gaining speed as he hit where my house was. And I ran out in the middle of the road pregnant. So I know it was probably not the smartest thing in the world to do, but I was scared and angry because that was not the first time I'd seen somebody do that on Saddle Ridge Drive. I stopped that man and I said, "Sir, you just blew off that stop sign. I have 2 small boys playing in my yard. What if one of them ran out after a ball into this street and you ran over them?" And the man ignored me and he kept on going up the hill. It was very frustrating. The second incident, I was walking my oldest son last year down to the bus stop. It's about 6:40 in the morning. It's dark outside. We take a flashlight and we wear reflective clothing so that cars that are going up and down the hill can see us when we're walking to the bus stop. I'm 3 houses away from that stop sign, not very far. I was maybe 10 yards from my driveway, and I kept my son on the inside so that he would be safe. I was on the outside, and another car came speeding down the hill, probably going faster than the person going up the hill when I was pregnant with my daughter, and that car nearly hit me. I was inches away from getting hit by that car. The third incident is my husband was out running, again, early in the morning. He runs about 5:30 in the morning, and he's been nearly hit. Cars have swerved to not hit him running in the morning. So I, as a wife and a mother, a resident of Saddle Ridge, have had my life endangered, my children's lives endangered, and my husband's life endangered because of people driving too fast, speeding through stop signs, not stopping, not slowing down. It happens all the time. Please give our subdivision the opportunity to take a vote to provide safe options like a calming device. Please consider that for us. Thank you.
Make it quick.
Well, my child's lives are worth a few minutes of your time as an elected official as far as I'm concerned. My name's Keith Harville. I'm 307 Saddle Ridge Drive. I feel very strongly, just as Carrie does, about the same things. I think I'm probably in the forefront of everything that goes on. I have 3 kids. I'm across the street from her. I've been there for 7 years now. I watch cars go up and down the street, and it continues to go on and on and on. We requested probably 7 years ago that Daryl and those guys come out and do a study. We did it. We went to the same thing. It got ignored. Nothing happened. I don't think we qualified. But I think a couple of things. I think, number one, I think maybe I sit out there and I watch the study go on, and I think it's a little tainted, quite frankly. I watch the same cars that go 60, 55 miles an hour down the road. You guys put the strips out there. They know they're there. Those same cars will come up to those little strips, go 5 miles an hour, go right over them, go right on up the hill, and come right on down the hill. I don't understand if that's taken into effect. I don't know if the grade of the hill in Saddle Ridge is taken into consideration on those speeds. I don't know if the the angle of the curvature is taken into effect on those speeds. Is there any chance that that's those things, or is that just on a straightaway, a flat road where those speeds and those numbers come from?
I guess I'm not quite sure what your question is. We put the speed tubes out and just document the speeds that we see out there, and you know, in every case, I think it's been on the hill.
I think what he's saying is getting a representative sample of but slowing down when they see.
I understand what you're saying, but it's just as easy that someone who is greatly in favor of traffic calming could speed up at the tubes to try to skew the results of the average that way. And
I think that would make me doing, I don't even know what that would classify me as, is that person doing that, having the issue in the neighborhood, and then speeding up to try to get you guys to come out to do it. I mean, it doesn't really make any sense to me. As
my point is, you know, depending on where you stand, whether you're for or against, you could argue either way on that. Someone who is very much against traffic calming could reasonably stand here and say, we've got a group of people that every time they see those tubes, they speed up. And no, I don't.
That's
right.
why we want to put it to a vote. Let the subdivision homeowners decide whether or not this is appropriate for the subdivision.
my other question would be, is the numbers, the data that we're up against to qualify, is that on a straightaway road, or is any consideration taken into the fact that the grade of our hill and the angle of that turn coming around that hill? Because those two things combine to lead to enormous dangers. The first year I lived in the house, I had a car come through my yard. Now think about that for a minute. A car coming through my yard. I don't know why it did it. It could have been it's distracted on a cell phone. You know, we don't have sidewalks in the neighborhood, so there's other things that need to be taken into consideration too that bring all the dangers for Carrie and her family and my family and all the other families in there into play. And it's a serious situation. I've had the sheriff, not too long ago, I think it was January or February, we had the sheriff come out. They sat basically in my yard with radar detectors, sat there, and every single car basically that was coming down the hill was an issue. Now, they didn't write many tickets. I don't know why they didn't, but it was a lot of warnings written, a lot of warnings that went out. But there's an issue at hand. But the only problem with that, too, is in today's world, people are getting on their cell phones. Hey, Mom, don't come down the hill fast today. The cops are in the yard. I mean, so it's very easy for people in today's technology world to take all the things into consideration that you guys are doing to try to study it, but it doesn't necessarily bring the day-to-day lives that we live in there in front of you. I would invite you. Any day you want to come out, I'll get the lawn chairs out. You guys can sit in my driveway with me. We'll get a news crew out there. We'll get a radar detector, and we'll watch everybody come down the hill. You will be alarmed at what goes on out there. All it is once again, what he's saying is it's worthy of us making the neighborhood have the voice in it. I pose a question to you guys. What do you have to lose? It's not a through street. The only people that go in there are people that live in Farragut. That's it, that live in Saddle Ridge, I'm sorry. That's the only people that are affected by this. And we're the only people affected by the cars speeding down the hills every day, too. That's it. What do you guys have to lose? What is there at loss? What is at risk? The liability? Well, there's other speed bumps. I travel all over Tennessee in sales. There's speed bumps in all kind of nice neighborhoods. Those guys are dealing with it. I mean, how are they dealing with it? What's the liability difference between this town and other towns in this state?
Let's just not forget this one factor, and that is that the fundamental problem is not the road, it's not the town, it's not the stop signs, it's people. That's the problem.
That's why
and there's nothing we can do that will change those people.